6th grade. It is me, Miss Miller. Welcome to my living room. Because I have the instruments at home, I decided to teach you the lesson about the flute and the piccolo since we're continuing here with the woodwinds. And yes, for the record, I'm a huge Lizzo fan and I promised to post a video of her playing my favorite flute solo, which is the one that she plays in the song Coconut Oil. So, for those of you that play flute at school already, I do have a student model flute, and I'll get closer so you can see it. It only has these 2 keys on the foot joint, technically 3 if you count this one over here. But that one, we use that one all the time. That one's more for balance than anything. But if you notice, the keys are flat here, whereas my professional flute, right here, if you look, has an extra key on the foot joint. And I also have holes in the keys, and that allows the air to vibrate out of the tube. So if you watched the science video I posted on Monday, it talked about how the air goes in the tube to vibrate, but not necessarily in the tube. Because if I put air in the tube, it's not how it's supposed to sound. It doesn't sound very good that way. But they talked about how you blow across an edge. All right, so right now I'm actually blowing across this edge right here, and so my air is hitting that edge, and on my flute, because I have this cutout on my lip plate right here, a little bit more air goes in the tube to make the air that's already in there vibrate, and that's what makes the flute make the sound. Now, it only plays as high or low as the first open key, because the air can escape out of the hole. So right now, technically my flute is only this long because there's a cork in here, so really the tube doesn't start till about there. All right, right above the lip plate. So really, it might be about a foot long right now, but it's really not that long. So I can make a sound just by blowing across the hole right here. Now, if I make my air that I'm blowing go faster, that is going to make the sound go higher without me pressing any additional keys. So, and that is actually what we call hertz. And hertz is how many times in a second a sound vibrates. For instance, an A, which is the first letter of the music alphabet, that vibrates at 440 sound waves in 1 second. Now, if I make my air go faster, every time you pop up an octave, which as we learned last week is 8 notes, every time you go up an octave, the hertz double. So that A, that higher A, is 880 sound waves in 1 second, which is pretty fast. And then if I go way up here, or if I go up to the highest A, that one, that's going to double 880, so we're going to be at 1,660 sound waves in 1 second. So that's going to bring me to our next highest thing, because above the flute, we have the piccolo. And the piccolo, now my piccolo is actually made out of wood, whereas my flute here is made out of silver. And we'll come back to the materials momentarily. Piccolo is made out of grenadilla wood, which is a tree that grows in Africa and South America, usually in the rainforest. All right, and it's a very hard wood, but it's a little bit temperamental. It can't get too hot, it can't get too cold, and it can't get too dry. I actually have to oil my piccolo, and I usually use almond oil on the wood to make sure it doesn't ever get any cracks or things like that. Piccolo in Italian literally means tiny flute, because that's what it is. It is literally half the size of the flute. Now the piccolo doesn't have these foot joints keys right here, so it is half as long, and the circumference, which is how big around the tube is much smaller. I can't even fit my pinky in there, which is really neat. All right, whereas like my whole thumb will fit inside the flute. So the piccolo is 1 octave higher than the flute. So if I play those A's again, and my neighbors are not going to be very happy with me if I keep playing those super squeaky high notes, but that is really high. All right, so that last A I played, the super high squeaky one, is double the high A I played on the flute. So we're getting way up there in the hertz section. All right, so piccolo's lowest note is here. My flute. Well, let's start with the student flute. It plays at a low C. And my professional flute goes down to a low B. Now, as we're working lower, I also got out my alto flute. And the alto flute is really, really big and long. Now, compared to even my professional model flute, all right, it's much, much longer, all right, and it's also a lot bigger in the tube, all right. So it actually plays a fourth lower, so down 4 notes. Flute is pitched in C, so if we count backwards, 4, C, B, A, G. The alto flute is pitched in G. So that means when I play a C, it sounds like a G. All right? So, but it plays really, really low notes. It can still play high. But as you get up higher, it kind of starts to sound sickly. It doesn't like to play high. So, alto flute. Now, I told you I would go back to the metals. My student flute is made of nickel. And how you can tell is I take the head joint off and I flick it. And it rings. Now, this is the same metal that the money nickel is made out of, our 5-cent coin. That is the same money that this flute, the metal, is made out of. Okay, so again, if I flick this, all right, and the metal changes how the sound vibrates as well. And each flute sounds different. So I'll compare and contrast here in a moment. But just so you can hear the difference, let me take off the head joint on my professional flute. And my professional flute is made out of solid sterling silver. So when I flick this one, it doesn't ring. I get kind of like a dunk, 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 dunk. So 2 very, very different sounds. So that's going to change how each of these flutes sounds. So let me start with the nickel flute, and I will play a little tune here. So this flute has a little bit of a darker sound, which makes sense because nickel is a little bit darker than silver. All right, let me play the same thing on the silver flute with holes in it, and it should sound just a smidge brighter, but also clearer. All right. And so you can hear the difference also between the wooden instrument, but also the piccolo playing super high. Here's an octave higher. I'll play the same tune on piccolo, so you can just hear how the wood is going to sound in a song and also hear the octave higher than the flute. And lastly, so you can just hear the difference, it's going to sound so much lower on alto flute. It's also going to sound like different notes, remember. It's not going to sound like quite the same notes. So here we go. It has funny different keys on here because technically, if I put my fingers here, I wouldn't be able to reach the keys. I actually have key extensions on alto flute so I can reach everything. So here's that same song. So, just the beginning phrase. That is actually a song called Sicilian by a dead French guy named Gabriel Fauré, and he is one of my favorite composers from the Romantic time period, which was during the 1800s. So that's a little bit about the flutes in the woodwind section. Remember, they don't have a reed. Remember, we talked about that where we have to blow across an edge, and that edge is going to split the air for us. We don't need a reed on the flute, which I personally enjoy. But if you have any questions, boys and girls, please feel free to message me on Schoology, make comments on posts. You are always welcome to email me at millka@whsd.net. I would love to hear from all of you because I'm very sad that I don't get to actually see you in person this school year. I was really looking forward to this 9 weeks and getting to see my 6th graders because a lot of you I've had in music class since you were very, very small, and so I really enjoy getting to see you grow up. But that's okay. Hopefully I will see you in the fall when you're great big 7th graders as well. So again, Woodland Hills 6th graders, I miss you. I love you. Get in touch with me if you need me, and also please make sure to do the assignments that I've been posting. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week and weekend. Stay safe and well.